So hi, good evening. Today we are going to discuss about management and leadership. So this is under the managing people and organization module. We know that management is all about planning, organizing, staffing, leading and controlling of activities of the organization in order to achieve some goal. So leadership, of course, is one of the functions of the management. Leading is also a function of a management. So when it comes to the leadership, it differs from whatever you call as managing. Manager is a different person from the leader. So we are going to evaluate these two types of concepts today. And we will be discussing about the management and especially the leadership traits, leadership theories, and so on and so forth. Right. So we'll move to the session. I'm pretty sure that you can see the slides of this presentation. We'll move. So before we start the lesson, we should, even though we are known to the management, we should first get a definition on the person called or role called manager. What do you mean by, who can be seen as a manager? Now, manager can be a person. He's a person who primarily responsible for this management process. When it comes to an organization, you can see there are so many functions operating inside an organization, so such as planning, organizing, staffing, leading, controlling, and the functions like marketing, HR, finance, operations, logistics, and transports, like that. So a manager is a person who primarily responsible for all these activities, for all these things. When it comes to the managers, there are so many layers of managers, right? As we are known to, like there are 2 3 layers. Let's say the top management or the senior management, let's say the CEOs, or maybe the director of operations. Then like that, you have the strategic management there. So then when it comes to the middle level of the managers, you have some of the operational managers like the functional managers, let's say marketing managers, HR managers, finance managers, accountants, like that. Then when it comes to the third level of the operational level, let's say there are so many first line managers like supervisors, the cluster heads and all. So there are so many types of managers, and we should have to first define the concept of manager. Right? So we'll get to know. Manager is a formally a person who works toward, you can of course see in your presentation, a person who works toward the attainment of the organizational goals in an effective and efficient manner through planning, organizing, staffing, leading and controlling of organizational resources. Now it's clear. Person who is primarily responsible for the management purpose or the management task can be called as a manager, or else a person who efficiently and effectively controls the organizational resources in a way which is planned, organized, staff, lead and controls, can be seen as a manager. So this is the official definition or the precise definition for the term called a person called manager. Right. So then there are 3 roles basically to be acted or to be performed by the managers. 3 types of roles. So what are they? Primarily, there are 3 types of roles known as interpersonal role, informational role, and decisional role. Let's see what are these things. Interpersonal in the sense, by being a manager, it's not just you being, no, when it comes to the manager in, 19th or 20th century, the picture was totally like a person who lives in a room, probably during the 20th century with the air condition, and who sits on a table and, commanding the others to do so. That is not the picture in 21st century, so it has to be changed. Now, your mindset, I'm of course pretty sure, because you are new to the subject, so you have that sort of a mindset. But being a manager, in the sense, it's not an easy task, because you being a manager, you cannot be a person who rules things, who governs things from an office. You can't sit and wait on your table, because there are so many things happening around you. Being a manager, you must go with the people. Not only the HR managers, but the finances, marketing, all the other managers have to do all these things. Interpersonal in the sense you're going to join with people, you're going to deal with people. So interpersonal roles define the role of a manager to be played within the people, to be act within the people, to deal with the people, right? That is what you call as interpersonal role of a manager. There are some sub roles as well, so we'll come to that later, right? So then we'll move to the second role called informational role. Now, have you seen? Okay, there's a good example. Now, during this coronavirus season, you can see some of the media presenters, right? Media presenters in the sense the people those who are bringing their internal information to the outside. Let's say in some cases we call them as a spokesperson, or let's say Madhya Prakashaka, right? There are people those who bring their internal information to the outsides, as well as the informational roles defines the role of a manager to receive and distribution of the ability to receive and distribute the information among the parties, those who are in favor of the businesses. So let's say role of receiving and distribution of information. The person who acts as the manager, or let's say the manager, should have to receive the information which are necessary, not the gossips, of course, not the informal communications, of course, but in some circumstance, as a person who worked for so many companies in Sri Lanka, I should say this: there are so many facets of information coming to you. Now, being a manager, you cannot always accept, or being a CEO, you cannot accept whatever the information that you receive. There can be good and bad information too. So you must understand the validity of such information, and you can use those information to your operational matters. Of course, when it comes to the informal and formal communications, formal communication means that for some reason you will receive some emails, and from your secretary, or let's say from your secretary, or let's say a responsible source, through a responsible source, you will receive some information, as well as you will publish some information to the others through a formal kind of a notification or a communication methodology. So that is fine. But believing but reacting based on the informal information, whatever you receive, is not going to work with your career. So be careful. By acting in the informational role, you must be aware about the trustfulness, or let's say the materiality of the information, right? So that is the second one. And the third one is the decisional role. Decisional role in the sense you must be able to, by being a manager, you must be able to make some sort of decisions, because all the businesses, every organization is depending, each and every organization is depending on whatever the decisions made by their managers. Can be a first line manager, can be a secondary line manager, or can be a top manager, senior manager, chief manager, or maybe a CEO, chief executive officer, COO, chief operations officer. So you must be responsible for whatever the decisions that you make in a circumstance where you might have received some information, you might have received some sort of circumstance, but anyway, you have to be careful in making the decisions. So there are three roles basically: interpersonal role within the people and among the people, informational role, so that is about your information, telecommunication ability, communication ability, and the third one is all about your decisional role. So you are going to make the decisions. Fine. So we'll get to know about all these three types of informational, interpersonal, and decisional role in depth according to the management scientist Sir Henry Mintzberg. He's a management scientist, and under his concept of 10 roles of a manager, he describes the interpersonal role in three ways. Now, the first one is, as you can see, the first one is a figurehead. Being a figurehead in the sense you are a nominal leader of your organization. That is to represent among the people, and even you have the signaturing power by being the designated person from that particular organization. That is what we call as a figurehead, right? Even though now there were some of the presidents in Sri Lanka during recent past, right? actually, I'm not intended to do any sort of discrimination, or let's say it's not a criticism. I'm not going to criticize the people, but still I'm telling you, even though the person is not in a position to govern the country or else to govern or control things, but still being the nominal leader or being the figurehead, he had that sort of or she had that sort of uh, you know power, or to that is called designative power. Of course, being the figurehead, he uh, represented the country. That is what. Okay. And then the second one is a leader. The first one was figurehead, second one is leader. By being a manager, within the and among the people, you must lead the people. Now, you being the manager, if others are not hearing to you, or let's say if the others are not listening to you well, so if the others can't hear you, it's not going to work with your task, right? So because of that, you must make sure that you are a very good leader under the interpersonal role. Third one is liaison. In some dictionaries, it says that is liaison. In some cases, we call it as liaison. But anyway, that is called your interaction between the peers. You being a manager, you must interact with the people, and that is basically to gain some information from the outsides, right? You being a manager, you can't like there were some of the managers, right? No one, he or she uh, you know didn't care about people, right? So you cannot be in that way, because you being a manager, you must be a liaison where you have to receive some information from the outside, as well as talk with people, and then only you will get to know about the circumstances and things like that, and you will share, because peership is a must. So that is why on these days the newest the upcoming some of the trends, like in the blue chip companies, you can't see some of the cubicles which are separated the employees from their managers. No, you can't, right? All are like workstations. The manager is next to you, right? So this is to develop the peership between the people. Okay, right. Then the second one is informational role. It's all about your informational or communicational ability. So let's say monitor. The first part is monitor, the first sub role, right? So that says manager receives and collects the information. You basically monitor. It's very easy to understand, right? Now, in a computer, we have a monitor. So from monitor only, we see something. We receive information, right? So being a manager, you must be a very good monitor to see the information, to refer the information, and so on and so forth. And when it comes to disseminator, that is the second sub role of informational role, you must distribute some of the information within your organization. As an example, let's say memorandums are there. We call them as memos, right? Some of the circulars are there, especially the banks and the government institutions are using circulars to communicate some of the messages within their departments and within their organizations, right? So that is up to the manager to be a disseminator, to distribute those information in the within the organization. That is not the external part. But you being a manager, you must be responsible for whatever the information published by the organization to the outside as well. To publish the organization, their information to the outside, you should be a spokesperson. So that is why all these Madhya Prakashakas are coming and having some of the television interviews on whatever the decisions that they have made during now, especially referring to this era. I'm recording this, casting this video during the Corona era. So, on these days, you may have seen most of the spokesperson are coming to you live, right? So that is to tell you what they have done, what are the things, or what are the decisions that they have made, right? So that is the role of a spokesperson. Fine. Now, the decisional role, the most dangerous role, right? You being the manager, you make the decisions and you are totally responsible for them, right? Let's say you're asking the people to come to the work or report to the work during the curfew. The curfew is imposed, you are asking the people to come to the work. Might be or should be an insane person, right? You being a manager, you must be socially responsible as well, right? And you must have to deal with the circumstances and emergencies as well. Okay, so going to the decisional role, the first one is the entrepreneur. What do you mean by an entrepreneur? Who is entrepreneur? A person who really wants to, you know, make the decisions over some of, always almost some, the entrepreneurs are managing the constraints, right? Entrepreneurs are some people those who seize the opportunities outside the environment. There are some potential opportunities. If you are an entrepreneur, not a typical business personality, you do something new. You do, you do deal with some of the uh, constraints in the society, and as well as you see some of the potential opportunities where you can make the profits. So in that sense, entrepreneur is a person who manager initiates changes. In the case where if you need to make some changes in your organization, you must be a good entrepreneur. Without them, without those skills and without the ability of being an entrepreneur, you cannot change your organization. You must have to change the direction of the organization as per the board of directors instructions. You must have to, make some changes in your organizations. So for that you may need that sort of an ability. Then the second one, the second sub role is disturbance handler. By being a disturbance handler, you must be, you know, handling disturbances, or let's say there are conflicts between the people. It can be between the people, or it can be between the society and your organization. So whatever the disturbances are coming to you during the circumstance, during your business operations, you must have to handle them. Especially, I know most of the HR managers are um, acting as the disturbance handlers in so many circumstances, because I've experienced through. Fine. Then the third one is actually, that is resource allocator. Now, as we all know, when it comes to the business management, why are we really managing the businesses? Because we know there are some sort of resource constraints, as well as we are having a limited nature of resources. We call it as scarcity. So with those, you must be a good resource allocator. If you are having 2-3 staff, let's say, especially in an emergency, if you have five of a cadre with you, that is called the total number of people using, working inside the organization. If you have to do so many tasks, you must be a resource allocator to allocate them with the tasks available. So without them, as well as the finances, when it comes to the financial management or the accountants, they are quite, uh, be good in managing the finances. Because whenever the board of directors wants to invest in some sort of a project, it can be investing, or even it can be creating a new sort of, expanding your clusters, expanding your business lines. You must be the resource allocators, right? Fine. Then the last one is the negotiator. Negotiator in the sense, you must be negotiate with the people that can be either outside or inside. But of course, you must negotiate with the people, those who do deal with you in, especially like the, what you call, the business contracts, the business agreements and things like that. You must negotiate with them. Negotiation is not like you are letting them to do whatever they want, right? No, that is not the case. But you must be able to offer something and get their ideas to make some sort of negotiated decisions, in the sense, so balanced decisions, which will not make them uncomfortable in the agreements. So that is your role in negotiator. So we learned basically 10 roles, 10 sub roles under 3 major roles under informational, interpersonal and decisional roles. So I hope that you got an idea about them. Then moving to the manager versus leader. Manager is a person who primarily responsible for the management. But who's a leader? Who should be a leader? When it comes to a leader, we can define a leader as a person or a thing that holds a dominant or superior position within its field and is able to exercise the high degree of control and influence over the others. Now, being a leader, it's not like easy as being a manager, right? In being a manager, in the sense, you have a designative powers, but there can be people, there can be some of the people working with you where they are not accepting you as their manager. That's fine. But being a leader in the sense, there are some followers, right? You don't have any authoritarian powers. You are not, actually, you should not be an authoritarian person, but you can gain your leadership through them by working with them, by assigning some tasks to them, and also getting the responsibility under you. Likewise, you can influence them through doing some work. Make sure, being a manager in the sense, you must be a very good leader. If you are not a very good leader in the sense, you can't survive in a management position, right? Having designative powers, having very good connections with your CEOs, having your informal communication with your board of directors won't survive you in that case. So you must be aware that you are working with people. Ultimately, whenever you are going out, the people are there to take care of you. Make sure that you be a good manager and a very good leader, because once you are going to be messed with these all these informal communication with your board of directors and so on and so forth, finally ultimately you will be suffered in one day. Actually, when it comes to the short term, of course you can survive, by giving some of, okay, one is telling, okay, it's enough, right? So one gecko is telling me it's enough, right? So this is the politics, right? That's fine. So when it comes to uh, leader, of course, leader should have the ability to influence over the others, right? And also, every successful leader is a manager, and every manager should be a leader, because leader is obviously managing his or her talent pool and resources, whatever he or she is having, so on and so forth. What the manager does, and also. Uh, a manager, if you are a very good manager, you must be a leader. You should be having the followers. You must be influenced over the others, not in a bad way, but in a good way. Right. Okay. So we'll move further. Then, with this leadership, it's a must to discuss about these teams, right? Teams or working groups, work groups. There are so many types of concepts you can see inside the organization, and departments, of course. Yes, it's a one way of making teams, right? If you are having a marketing department in your organization, most of the people, those who are watching this, are working. So if your departments do have some of the people inside them, so that's a different team in your organization, right? Your organization is a very high profile. Let's say it's a team, and you have sub teams or subsets in it. So we call them as departments. Fine. So what is a team? A group of people with a full set of complementary skills required to complete a task or job or a project, obviously. So team members operate with high degree of interdependence, in the sense with interaction. So they depend on the others as well. Share the authority and responsibility for self-management. Yes, of course. Are accountable for collective performance. Yes. At the end of the day, if the blame has come, so you must have to accept it as a team. No one can say. Now let's say, look at the cricket team of Sri Lanka. Look the football team of Sri Lanka. So they are always getting, whatever the bad things come, they accept them as a team, right? Otherwise, they don't have any choice, because they played together, they worked together to achieve that sort of, let's say, to win a match. But of course, whatever the blames coming to them has to be, they cannot reject, of course. Now, you being a team, you must accept everything, but you must get the preventive actions, right? And the fourth one is the work toward a common goal and shared rewards. Now, a team, of course, they are not going to get the reward lonely, but individually, but they will get them as together, as well as they have to work together. Right. So these are the things where we're going to discuss today. And also, when it comes to the leadership qualities, uh, I think because with the time constraints, we cannot move with the leadership trait theories, the theories of leadership. I'm not going to continue it today. Of course, I can continue it later in my next session. The leadership qualities, of course, the leaders should have forward-looking ability, right? You must forecast your future. You being a leader, you must forecast your future, and competent enough and confidence enough to do something, right? If you are lack of competent and confident, you cannot achieve things. And you must be honest to your members. To believe in the peership, you must be honest to your bosses, or let's say the managers or the superiors, or can be the directors in a company, and must be honest enough with your peership. And also, you must empower, induce people. If you're always discouraging your people by telling the, truth or false about your board of directors and the management and all other stuff, it won't work, because all the people will be discouraged to work with you. Ultimately, they will reject you for being a leader. So, you being a leader, you must be empower the people and inspire people. Set example. While you're asking to come on time, you cannot be late. You must set the example and lead the change. You must be the change leader, change agent. You must lead the change, right? You should not be reluctant to do some of the changes, and you should not follow whatever the instructions given by, if those are biased for the benefits of the management, you must not bias with them, because you are representing the people, those who are working with you, and the collective teams. And also, you must be having a shared vision. You should be, if you are a leader. Now, some of the companies, I may have seen some of the companies, there are some sort of first line managers, or let's say the departmental managers. They are having their own values and vision, right? They are having, they are working for their chair people, chairmans, right? They are working for their, own bosses, and the bosses have, sort of, pampered them, and they are having sort of ideas, right? But it's not going to work with your company. Your company will be definitely be closed within hours. Because why? All these things are for your mutual satisfaction. You cannot play a game without a team. Now, when it comes to that circumstance, some of the people are playing nicely while the others are not, right? Make sure, if you are a leader, don't let others to spoil your soup. Thousand cooks will be spoiling a soup. So that is the case. Make sure, if you are a good leader, don't make the others to become the leaders, right? Mark that point, and we'll make our leadership theories from next time onwards, I mean during the next session. So thank you very much for coming to this online session, and I hope that you've gained something out of this session, and we'll catch you up next time. Thank you very much.